Hi Reddit. I never thought I'd post here, but it looks like I need an honest outside opinion. The situation I'm in is tearing me apart. My name is Eric. I'm 32. I live in a small suburb of Seattle, work as a software engineer at a private company. I've never considered myself suspicious or jealous, but the last few months have made me question everything I knew about love, trust, and honestly about myself. My fiance's name is Laura. She's 30. We met almost 4 years ago at a mutual friend's wedding. I remember that day down to the details, the music, the laughter, the smell of champagne and her gaze. She was standing at the bar in a blue dress, and I, not the most confident guy, somehow mustered up the courage to approach her. She laughed when I mixed up her order, and from that moment the conversation didn't stop all evening. A couple of weeks later, we started dating. Everything was like in a romantic movie: late-night walks, shared breakfasts, first trips, laughter until tears. I thought I'd finally found the one. She was kind, lively, ambitious. She taught biology in high school. Yeah, ironic considering what comes next. We complemented each other. I was a bit reserved. She was sunny, emotional, could melt ice with one kiss. Our relationship wasn't perfect, but it was strong. We rarely argued, knew how to talk and find compromises. My friends often joked, "Hey Eric, when's the wedding?" And I'd always reply, "When I'm sure I can spend my whole life with her." After 3 years, I proposed. It was at a small cafe by the lake where we first kissed. She cried, said yes, and it was one of the best days of my life. The first worrying thoughts came from what seemed like nothing. One day, we were at her place sorting through old photos. Laura pulled out a box of childhood pictures, a typical nostalgic evening. In one photo, she was standing next to a man I didn't recognize. Not her dad, someone else. I asked, "Who's that?" She froze for a second, then answered too quickly. "Just a neighbor, helped my mom when I was little." I didn't think much of it, but then I started noticing that every time the conversation turned to her father, Laura got tense. She'd say her parents divorced when she was 10, that her dad lived in another state and they barely talked. One time, after a bit too much wine, she muttered, "Sometimes I think Mom was hiding something from me." Then she waved it off. "Forget it, just silly thoughts." I forgot back then. 6 months after the engagement, Laura told me she was pregnant. It was unexpected, but I was happy. I was running around the house, laughing, kissing her belly, making plans for the future. But a few weeks later, something started to change. She became strange, avoiding conversations, locking herself in the bathroom with her phone, often going to Mom's, even though she rarely did before. I chalked it up to hormones, stress, pregnancy, the usual. But one day, she accidentally left her phone on the couch, and a message from some T popped up. "Are you sure he won't find out?" Everything inside me dropped. I didn't read further, just put the phone back and went for a walk. That evening, I couldn't think of anything else. What if the child isn't mine? At first, I tried to brush off the thought. "You're paranoid," I told myself. "She loves you, it's just a coincidence." But then little oddities started happening. She suddenly switched gynecologists, saying it's closer to home. Stopped adding me to family photo chats. Laura's mom, always polite and open, now spoke to me dryly like she knew something. I started losing sleep. I'd get up at night, pace the apartment, look at the ring on my finger and ask myself, if I'm wrong, I'll ruin everything. If not, I'm living a lie. One evening, as we sat in the kitchen, I gathered my courage and said, "Laura, can I ask something? Are you sure the child is mine?" She reacted instantly, like I'd hit her. "What?" she whispered. "How can you even say that?" I feel like you're hiding something," I replied quietly. She jumped up, her eyes shining with tears and rage. You're calling me a liar after everything between us. I tried to explain it wasn't an accusation, just fear, that I just wanted to be sure before we got married. But Laura wasn't listening. She cried, screamed, said I'd humiliated her. You ruined everything, Eric, everything. An hour later, she packed her things and left for her mom's. The next days were hell. I tried calling, she didn't pick up. Texted silence. A week later, her mom called me. Eric, have you lost your mind? She said coldly. My daughter is pregnant and you're making her cry. I just wanted a DNA test, I replied. Not because I don't love her, but because I want the truth. If you really love her, you don't need any test, she snapped. You're just not worthy of her. I hung up. A couple of days later, I talked to my childhood friend, Mike. He listened and said, Bro, if you hadn't asked that question, you'd burn up with doubts later. Better now than in 10 years. And he was right. I knew I might lose Laura, but I couldn't live without knowing the truth. 3 weeks passed, she didn't come back. The wedding planned for June, she temporarily postponed. I feel like her family turned her against me. My parents say I did the right thing, friends that I went too far. And I just sit by the window at night, looking at the ring I still keep, and wonder, am I really the asshole? Or just a guy who wanted to be sure his life isn't built on a lie? It's been almost 2 weeks since that conversation. Silence, no calls, no messages. Even her sister, who I used to get along with, stopped replying. Sometimes it felt like her whole family just erased me from their lives. But the worst was the morning I opened Instagram and saw Laura had deleted all our joint photos. All from trips, the engagement, holidays. Only posts left with captions like, sometimes people show their true face when you least expect it. My chest tightened. I felt like the villain. Not because I did something terrible, but because everyone around now thought I was. On the third day of silence, I went to my parents. Dad, an old-school guy, met me at the door, took off his glasses and said, What did you mess up this time, son? Your mom is worried like you killed someone. We sat in the kitchen. I told everything, the suspicions, the conversation, how Laura left. He listened silently, then said, You did the right thing, Eric. Really, even if it ruins everything. If she loves you, she'll understand. If not, better you found out now than in 20 years raising someone else's kid. Mom, on the other hand, was softer. Women are very vulnerable during pregnancy. She might have taken your words as distrust. Try apologizing, not for the request, but for how you said it. Her words stuck in my head. Maybe it really wasn't the question, but that I said it too bluntly. The next morning, my phone vibrated. A message from Laura. I need time. I'm not ready to talk. Please don't come. It was something, at least some connection. I replied, Okay, we'll take time, but I'm always here if you want to talk. A few more days passed, then more. I threw myself into work, trying to drown out the thoughts, but they came back like an echo. Every evening, I'd catch myself standing by the window, watching if her car would pull up. A month later, friends convinced me to go out. We sat in a bar, laughed, tried to distract. And then Mike, that same childhood friend, said, Listen, I was thinking, maybe you should just chill and wait. If the kid's yours, she can't hide it anyway. I sighed. Mike, you don't get it. It's not about hiding or not. It's about trust. If she's already mad over a simple question, how will we go on? He nodded. Or maybe you're just afraid of being fooled. Not because she did it, but because you've been betrayed before. His words hit the mark. When I was 25, an ex cheated on me with a coworker. Back then, I didn't want to believe it either. Probably since then, that feeling settled in me, the fear of being a fool. That same evening, closer to midnight, the phone rang. Named Laura. I almost dropped it from surprise. Hi, her voice was quiet like a stranger's. Hi, I replied. I'm glad you called. Silence, then a sigh. Eric, I don't know how to feel about you now. Laura, I just wanted the truth. I didn't mean to hurt you. But you did, badly. I felt dirty like I was under suspicion. I listened, trying not to interrupt. I understand, I said. But understand me, I wasn't accusing, I just wanted to be sure. She cried. I'm pregnant with your child, Eric. I know that. But now it hurts to look at you because you don't believe it. A couple of days later, she agreed to meet. We chose a cafe we used to go to often. She came, pale, exhausted. I wanted to hug her, but she stepped back. You know, she started, I've thought a lot. Mom said you're toxic, friends that you can't be trusted. And what do you think? I asked. I think I don't know who you are. Those words hit harder than a shout. I said quietly, I'm just a man who wants to be sure the child he'll love is really his. Is that a crime? She looked away. And if I asked you for a loyalty test? I'd do it without hesitation. She looked at me and said, then maybe we're too different. After the meeting, I felt like I'd swallowed a stone. The next day, her brother texted me. Eric, you're acting like a paranoid. Leave her alone. She's pregnant, she can't be stressed. Then a mutual friend, Tom, called. Bro, I get you, but you're really overdoing it. This isn't a TV show where you can just demand a test. People don't do that. And there I was, alone against everyone. The world around seemed to decide I was a monster who insulted a sacred pregnant woman. Sometimes I started thinking maybe I really went overboard. Maybe I should have just trusted. But then I'd remember that message from T, her coldness, secrecy, and it all came back. I realized, if I just pretend to trust, it won't be trust, it'll be a lie for peace. A week after the meeting, I got a letter. From a lawyer. Dear Mr. Hanson, Miss Laura Miller requests that you not contact her directly. All matters regarding the child should be directed through a representative. I reread the letter several times. Then I just sat and laughed bitterly, silently. This wasn't a fight anymore. This was war. A few more weeks passed. I didn't know where she was, how she was, if the baby was healthy. But one evening, Mike called and said, Eric, you won't believe it. Laura was seen at the supermarket with that guy. You know, the one from the message. I felt my blood run cold. You sure? Absolutely, they were holding hands. That night I didn't sleep. Not from anger, from realizing that maybe everything I feared was true. A month passed. I almost stopped waiting for calls. The wedding was officially canceled. Gifts from friends returned. I kept the ring in a drawer. Sometimes I'd go on Reddit, read similar stories. Men, women, doubts, hurts. And each time I'd realize no one is ever fully right. Love isn't math, but trust. It's either there or not. And now I didn't know what was scarier. That she really betrayed me. Or that I ruined everything because of a fear I couldn't let go. It's been over 2 months since everything collapsed. I became like a ghost, living on autopilot, eating on schedule, working like a robot. But one thought kept spinning in my head. What if I was wrong? What if the child really is mine, and I just ruined everything because of my issues? I tried to push it out of my head, but couldn't. In the evening, as I was about to go to bed, the phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Eric, this is Susan. Susan, Laura's best friend, the one who once called me the perfect man. Now her voice was tense. We need to talk. About what? About Laura and about what's going on. We met in the parking lot by a coffee shop, so no one would see. She looked worried, glancing around. Susan, what's wrong? She sighed. I can't watch you both suffer anymore. I know Laura's pregnant, but there's something you don't know. My heart pounded harder. Speak. Remember you asked about that tea? Yes. It's Thomas, her coworker. I froze. Coworker? Yes, they were texting, but not because he was her lover. He was helping her with a project, but then things got weird. What do you mean, weird? Susan looked down. Thomas was always hitting on her. Everyone knew. And one time at a corporate party, he got too drunk, I think. I don't know what happened, but after that night, Laura changed, closed off, anxious. A chill ran down my spine. You think? I don't know, Eric. She never said it outright, but I saw her crying at night when everyone had left. In that moment, everything flashed before my eyes. Her strange behavior, bursts of anger, her phrase, I'm not ready to talk. Maybe she wasn't afraid of the DNA test showing not your paternity, but that something happened to her against her will. My head spun. I sat on the curb right in the middle of the parking lot. Susan said quietly, I shouldn't have told you this, but you need to know it's not that simple. The next day, I dialed Laura's number. Hi, I said when she answered. What do you want, Eric? Please listen to me. I know about Thomas. Silence. Then sharp, short breath. Who told you? Doesn't matter. I just want to understand. She broke. You have no idea what I've been through. You think I was hiding all this for an affair. I was silent. My throat was dry. That evening, she spoke quickly, almost whispering, was my worst. I thought I could trust him. We drank, he walked me to the car. I don't want to tell the rest. The world around ceased to exist. When I found out I was pregnant, I didn't know from whom, she continued. I was afraid if I told you, you'd leave. Laura. And then you asked about the DNA test, and it just finished me off. I thought you sensed something, you figured it out. She cried. I couldn't find words. Only one thing echoed in my head. I made a woman who survived assault feel guilty. I said quietly, why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I was afraid of losing you for good. After that conversation, I couldn't eat or sleep. My request for a DNA test suddenly became a symbol of betrayal, though originally I just wanted honesty. Now I didn't know what to do. If the child isn't mine, I'm ready to accept him because I know Laura isn't at fault. But how to convince her I'm not the enemy? A couple of days later, I gathered myself and went to her. She opened the door wary. I didn't come to demand a test. I came to say it doesn't matter whose child it is. I still want to be there. She looked at me with distrust. Why suddenly? Because now I know the truth. She covered her mouth with her hand, like she couldn't believe it. Then she just sank to the floor and burst into tears. The following weeks were like slow motion. We started talking again, cautiously, no promises. Sometimes I felt unnecessary, sometimes, like the only one who could understand her. She still didn't want to do the DNA test. I didn't insist. The only thing that mattered to me was that she felt safe. But inside me, the fear remained. That deeply hidden one. What if the child really isn't mine? What if I'm building a life on a lie I decided not to check? A few months later, she gave birth to a boy. I was there. When the nurse brought out the baby, I couldn't tear my eyes away. He was tiny with surprisingly familiar blue eyes, my eyes. And in that moment I realized I don't need to know anything else. It's been 3 months. One evening, as I was sorting papers, a document fell out of an envelope, a medical record. Laura's and the child's blood tests. I swear I wasn't looking for it, just saw it. My heart froze. In the line, father's blood type, mismatch. The boy couldn't be mine. Silence, 5 seconds, 10. I just stood, staring at the paper, feeling the world collapse for the second time. I stood there a long time, looking at that sheet of paper. Blood type mismatch. One medical fact that destroys everything I tried to believe in. The world seemed to stop. Only the lamp over the table flickered, casting a shadow on the edge of the document. I checked the paper 10 times, date, lab number, name. No, all correct. The child isn't mine. My first reaction wasn't anger, but emptiness. No strength even to shout. I just stood and thought about how to live now. Laura didn't know I'd seen it. I could just throw away the paper and pretend nothing happened. And maybe that would be the simplest solution. But when I looked at the photo, her with the baby in her arms, smiling, me next to them, I realized this lie is already part of my life. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I went to Laura. She opened the door in home clothes, with the child in her arms. Eric, something wrong. I didn't know how to start. Laura, I found a paper, medical. She paled. What paper? Test results, there's a mismatch. Silence. She looked down, holding the child closer. You knew all along, she said quietly. From the beginning, you sensed it. No, I wanted to believe, but now. Now what? You're leaving. I didn't answer right away. Because I didn't know. She put the baby in the crib and sat across from me. I didn't want it to happen like this, she began in a trembling voice. I didn't know who the father was. I tried to block that evening from my memory, and when I found out I was pregnant, everything inside froze. I listened without interrupting. I did the test myself, she continued. Found out the child isn't yours but couldn't tell you, because by then you'd become part of all this. You cared, made plans, believed. I was afraid to destroy what at least resembled a normal life. She burst into tears. I sat silently, and only one thought pounded in my head. She lied, but not out of malice, out of pain. I could leave right now. Say you betrayed my trust, and just close the door forever. No one would judge. Reddit friends, parents, all would say. You did the right thing, it's not your child. But looking at that baby, who already recognized my voice, reached for me, smiled, I realized it's more complicated. I remembered my father, cold, distant, who always repeated, blood is the only thing that matters. But now, looking into the child's eyes, for the first time I felt that wasn't true. I stood up, went to the crib. The baby smiled and grabbed my finger. I said, his name is Noah, right? Yes, Laura whispered. Good, so Noah Stevenson. She looked up. What do you mean? I'm staying. Tears rolled down her cheeks. But why, after everything? Because he's not to blame, and neither are you. A few weeks later, I told my brother everything. He listened and said, you're crazy, it's not your child, you're just ruining your life. I smirked. Maybe, but you know, bro, sometimes what makes us human isn't logic, but the choice we make despite the pain. Laura and I went to therapy. At first, just to learn to talk to each other. She gradually opened up, shared what she'd been through. I learned not to accuse but to listen. Sometimes I wanted to quit everything. Sometimes I'd wake up at night and look at the baby, thinking, what will happen when he grows up and finds out? But then he'd reach for me, and all doubts vanished. Now Noah is 5. He calls me dad. And honestly, I stopped wondering who's he really is a long time ago. Biology is just chance. Real fatherhood is when you don't leave, even when you have a reason to. Recently, Laura suggested officially adopting him. I agreed without thinking. AITA for asking for a DNA test before marriage. No, I wasn't the asshole when I asked. I just didn't understand that sometimes pain hides behind fear. But I would have been an asshole if I'd left after learning the truth. Because in that moment I realized kinship isn't about blood, it's about choice. Sometimes life puts us in situations where there's no right answer, where you either forgive or forever lose the ability to feel. My choice to stay, not because I'm a saint, but because one day, looking into Noah's little eyes, I realized he didn't ask for his life to start with pain, but I can make sure it continues with love. And maybe that's what makes a person a father.